Hello, For Your Feminine. I'm Violet Lang. I'm an expert on love, dating, and relationships, and I'm here to talk with you tonight about fear. Yes, that big, scary monster fear that we all have, and we sometimes don't even realize that it's there. And the reason I want to talk about this is because this comes up so often in early stage relationships. Maybe you've gotten to know someone for a few weeks or even a month, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I'm starting to have feelings for this person. Eek! You know, like that emoji I posted in the description of this, the monkey that's like, what? We almost don't want to see. And when we're in that place of fear, the problem is that it becomes ingrained in us and it starts to be the lens by which we see everything else. So, hi Tanya, hi Marna. So I want to talk about fear because let's face it, we all have it. And I don't want it to get in the way of you having a great relationship because it can get in the way of having a great relationship if you don't notice it and if you don't know how to work with it. So how do you know that you're suffering from bouts of fear? Sometimes we don't even realize that it's coming up because we've been conditioned to be afraid. There are times when the other day in the kitchen, I'll just tell on myself, my husband was opening a drawer as I was closing a drawer and my finger got caught in the drawers. And I was like, ow. And it wasn't even physically that painful, but it felt very emotionally painful because we were talking and then it was like weird to have us talking and having a great conversation, but then physically feel like I got hurt by him. So I said, ow. And then I stepped away and I was like, I don't want to talk to you because he was trying to continue our conversation. And then in the back of my mind, I just kept thinking, well, he meant to do that. How come he didn't see that? It's like I had been conditioned and I have been conditioned to think that if I'm hurting, it's someone else's fault, that they meant to hurt me. And that's crap. There's accidents all the time. People are, speaking their truth or doing whatever they need to do, and it's not intentional. But I have so much fear around being hurt that I automatically think that if I'm not feeling good, it's because someone was trying to hurt me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So I myself have these like fear goggles, forget beer goggles, fear goggles that condition the way that I see my relationship. And so many of us have the same thing. Men have it too, believe me, not just women. But I'm talking to you, lovely tribe of goddesses. And so I'm going to go with the female perspective as I know it, which is that we can think that we're not afraid. We can think that we really want love and relationship or the guy that we're messaging to ask us out on a date, but we have really subtle ways that we deflect because of fear. So I'll give you some examples. If you've ever been talking with someone and then they message you and you feel like maybe a little bit of disgust, or you feel so excited but you're afraid of overwhelming them, so turn off your phone or you put it away, or you find reasons that maybe you don't like them. Like anytime you're finding a reason to not connect, you're getting stuck in perfection. Like, how should I handle this? What should I say? And you're losing sight of connection. And if we're stuck in the cycle of perfection, it's going to be really hard to connect with that person authentically because we're going to be walking on eggshells or forgetting who we authentically are. Another way that you might know if you're facing fear in your early stages of dating or relationship are if you are afraid to ask for what you want. So how many of you have dated someone for a while and you're just afraid to say like, hey, I really like you. I'd like to take this further. I'd like us to be exclusive. How do you feel about that? So many women are terrified to have that conversation because they're afraid of rejection or afraid of abandonment, or they think, well, the guy is supposed to ask. Well, there's no supposed to. Like if it's something that's on your heart that you really want, as long as you have the right skill, the right way to ask about it that's authentic and doesn't sound needy or desperate, then of course, speak your truth. And even if it did sound needy and desperate, that's okay too. I just want it to come across as powerfully and gracefully as possible for your benefit and his benefit. But if you've ever done that, if you've ever withheld your truth out of fear, then that might be a way that you're seeing through fear goggles. If you've ever been in a relationship for a long time and someone maybe cuts you down or says little remarks or seems kind of huffy or bristly, and you just think, wow, maybe I did something wrong, and you ask them, hey, how are you? Are you okay? It seems like something's off. Or maybe you don't even ask them that and they say, no, I'm fine. Like anytime that we've withdrawn from connection, withdrawn from relationship, withdrawn from the opportunity to speak our truth, normally it's because we have those fear goggles on and we are not seeing the situation clearly so that we can be in our power, ask for what we want, leave if we need to, or express what does and does not work for us. So fear can creep in at many different parts of the relationship, not to freak you out, but you've probably already been noticing it, so we might as well talk about the elephant in the room. But it's really tricky in the early stage of relationship before we get to that exclusivity because we don't have a container, we don't have a structure for the relationship that we can rest into. And most women are dying for that structure. Masculine energy provides structure, it provides direction, it provides the frame, it provides the structure, the support. And so many women feel better once they're in boyfriend-girlfriend stage or engaged or married, like, oh, I can kind of like relax and be myself a little bit more. But what if you just relaxed and were yourself a little bit more even earlier in the stage of dating? You might find that you feel more authentically connected to your power, your truth, your sensuality, your femininity, instead of putting that off. A lot of women will think, well, I'll show who I really am, or I'll express how I really feel later when it's safer. And then we say, oh, it's fine, it's okay, and we're kind of like pulling back. And then we're upset sometimes that men aren't more committed. But we ourselves have lost our commitment to the moment, or our commitment to speaking the truth, or our commitment to ourselves. So this is a path of courage. This is not for the faint-hearted, and I totally get that. I don't expect anyone to be perfect, but I want you to have real, enchanting, magical, beautiful, and grounded, fulfilling relationships with someone that really gets you. And unfortunately, it's hard for someone to get you unless you share what your experience is or what your world is. You can do this verbally, you can do this non-verbally, you can do this over text, you can do this in person. There's so many ways to express ourselves, which are beautiful. But the downside of not doing that is that you might feel a little bit hollow. And then if you're feeling a little bit hollow in your dating or your relationship, it won't ever be enough. If you're not showing who you really are, it doesn't matter what they say, what they do, how many times that they send you a cute text, you'll be thinking, well, he doesn't really know me, even if you're just thinking that subconsciously. So if you're just joining, welcome. We're talking about how many of us, myself, I've done this in the past too, and I still sometimes do it with my husband. We go into a situation with fear goggles. We're seeing everything through the eyes of fear, of not being good enough, of being rejected, of being abandoned, of the relationship not working out. And oftentimes that's just a conditioned pattern that happened when we were young. It's just a story that we've told ourselves that something isn't safe. But truly, most everything is safe. I mean, yes, there are risks in the world, but for the most part, we find this sense of lack of safety by not trusting ourselves, by not honoring the moment, by not speaking our truth. So if you've ever worn these fear goggles, or if you're thinking, wow, maybe I am wearing fear goggles, I would love to hear more about it. You can put it in the comment bar. Another part of life and of dating where we might have these fear goggles on is in online dating. And the tricky thing about that is online dating is an algorithm. So it pays attention to what you swipe and what you like and who you message and all of those things. So if you're approaching online dating from a place of retraction, from a place of withdrawal, or from a place of hiding who you are, maybe for good reason, maybe something has happened in the past that was really painful. You know, I'm not blaming you for that, but if you're approaching online dating from a place of, you know, skepticism or we'll wait and see, you're probably going to get people that are either skeptical or they're trying to like take you for a run, so to speak, you know? So we typically either attract the same energy or the opposite. And so you can even kind of see where your patterns might be showing up and what you need to do in order to address and to fix that. And especially because online dating is an algorithm, the more entrenched that you get, the more that you are going to repeat that cycle. And then a lot of women are like really hot on the apps. They're on all the apps for a little bit, a few months, and then they feel dejected, and then they go off, and they go on, and they go off. And so it's kind of like riding a bike, but not really getting any forward momentum. You need some training wheels. You know, you need some support. You need a system. You need someone who can help you go through that and someone who can help you gain momentum so you're not just tipping to one side or the other. Another way that you can tell that you're wearing your fear goggles, so to speak, is that you might have some limiting beliefs around men or around dating, like online dating sucks, or there's no good men left, or the town I live in is too small, or, you know, I'm a bigger woman and it's hard to find a man who likes that. Like, that's not true. I've worked with women who have been living in a small town, who are size 24, which is beautiful, who are, you know, afraid to online date, which I don't blame you again, but still, it's a great technology to use if you know how to use it. Or women who've just been hurt, and so it's easier, it's a shortcut in the brain to make a belief that all men suck, instead of really peeling back the layers and saying, well, what am I afraid of? Because the beautiful thing about fear is that when we dive into the heart of fear and when we're willing to sit with our fears, there's tons of energy there. It's like primal energy. If you see an animal that's scared, all of their muscles are tense. Their whole body is tense and alert. But if you can dissipate that energy, there's so much flow, there's so much passion, there's so much power. And I want you to be able to have that in your life in general and in your dating life for sure. And the other part about fear is that we might not even know that our bodily senses are telling us that we have fear, because fear can also be masked by freeze. So if you've ever felt kind of sleepy, not interested in someone, not feeling like you're finding anyone attractive, feeling that you're just kind of numb, that could be a sign that there's fear, but your body is in the freeze response versus the fight or flight response. So just notice the cues in your body, and then have the support and guidance that you need and the tools that you need to become very in touch with your body, so you can notice the fear and then channel the fear into something positive instead of having you retract. Now, there are going to be situations where you need to retract from a guy because he's not the right person for you, or it truly is not a safe situation. And so fear is evolutionarily a very good thing. But we just don't want to live in it all the time, and we don't want to be looking at our relationships through these fear goggles, our limiting beliefs that turn into actions that are not helping us. Another way that this shows up, this is just so prevalent in so much of dating, because some of our biggest fears stem around fear of abandonment and fear of rejection, which happens more in relationship than any other part of our life. You know, if someone rejects us at work, we can move on to a different workplace, or we have someone else to talk to, or all of that. But when someone rejects us in our personal life, they've become our primary attachment. They become the similar level of connection as our early caregivers did. So it can open Pandora's box, so to speak. Hi, Bonnie. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for sharing that. So yeah, one of the ways that we can wear our fear goggles is when we deflect attention. And what I mean by that is we kind of subconsciously are looking for the exits. And I work with a lot of women on this. So, you know, they'll make progress in a belief, or they'll open their heart, or they'll find their feminine energy, and then a man will approach them, or they'll start chatting with someone online, and they'll kind of deflect. That's the best way to describe it. So it happens when we get nervous. It happens when we all of a sudden think, well, I don't need this, or I'm fine, or this is too much work. Like, these stories or these excuses that come up that are just layers above the fear that the mind has an easier time digesting if we're not sure how to read the signals of fear in our body. And what that might look like online is if a guy is consistently showing up for you and that feels different. If that's not familiar, if you're used to someone who's kind of hot or cold, then you might all of a sudden be like, oh, he's boring. He's texting me again, you know? And it's almost like we have to stretch our capacity to receive consistency, to receive love, to feel adored, and all of that. Because if it feels unfamiliar, we might be afraid of it. And we might be afraid just because we're not used to it, not because it's not good for us, you know? It's like, I'm sure back in the evolutionary times when, you know, like hunter-gatherer people were looking for berries and looking for different animals and all of that, like, they might have been afraid of things that they just didn't know. Fire probably is an example. I'm clearly not a history buff, but I'm just trying to create some analogies because it's so much easier to learn when we have analogies. So if you notice yourself kind of shutting down, deflecting, rejecting, protecting, like, all those things are just kind of getting in the way of the beauty of the moment. And most people want to have a beautiful relationship. They want to feel connected. They want to feel romantic with their partner. They want to feel that their partner is really attuned to them. But then when they do have someone who's putting loving attention on them, sometimes it can feel too much. So we have to increase our capacity to receive attention and increase our capacity to receive pleasure, and just watch out when we're running away. You know, are you subconsciously running away from something that's really good for you? Are you subconsciously choosing men who don't value you because that's just what's familiar, and you have your fear goggles on for what feels unfamiliar, which could actually be something that's really great and really safe? So I have some great inquiries for you. I've peppered some different questions in here tonight. I want you to pay attention to when you're wearing your fear goggles, and pay attention to your body and your body's responses. And if you're not sure, like, when am I afraid? When am I not afraid? Or if you find yourself getting stuck at certain stages of relationship, like it's hard to meet a man in the wild, or it's hard to go from online messaging to date, or it's hard to go from like first date to second date, or to get to exclusivity. Like, those are all points where the fear can kind of come up, and we can regress back into our old pattern of withdrawing in order to feel safe, instead of living courageously in our hearts as women of love, which I know you can all do, and which is why you're here, because it's something you're passionate about. So if you're curious about how to live as a woman of love more courageously, how to stay connected to your heart and your femininity, how to know when you're wearing those fear goggles and learn how to lovingly put them off and take them to the side when it's the right situation, and if you just need some help weeding out the good from the bad, and the familiar patterns which might not be serving you, and the unfamiliar patterns which will actually help you get what you want, then I would love to connect. We offer free 45-minute Breakthrough to Love sessions. This is where you'll get a lot of clarity on the patterns that may have been holding you back, on what you want. Sometimes we're not actually clear on what we want until we have someone else kind of prompting us and asking us questions, and we give ourselves permission to dream even bigger. So you'll also get crystal clear on your vision. And if it makes sense, if it feels like it's a fit for both of us to work together, then we'll talk about that. But if not, that's totally cool too. There's no pressure whatsoever. I just want you to enjoy and receive someone actually spending some time with you to walk you through your love life in a way that a therapist can't and a friend can't, because they're biased, and people who are already married might have amnesia about what it's like to date. So we're kind of in a poverty consciousness sometimes when it comes to men and when it comes to getting the support that we need in dating. So if that appeals to you, go to violetlang.com/talk and book your free 45-minute session, and we will talk with you then. Otherwise, I will be here next Wednesday doing a Facebook Live, as we do every Wednesday, and have a great rest of your evening. Mwah! Lots of love. Bye. Take off the fear goggles.